Hello, good evening and welcome to the Hot Seat. Our guest tonight is a man who spent, having qualified as a lawyer, has spent a lifetime in politics and in the trade union movement, and from time to time has represented the people's interest in matters from hedging to, hopefully, bonds. Hello, good evening and welcome, Mr. Vasudeva Nanyakara. Thank you for being in the Hot Seat.
Good evening, good evening.
Mr. Nanyakara, all your colleagues, your contemporaries, appear to have left the leftist movement and embraced some form of capitalism. You have remained. How do you feel about that?
I feel very fine that I have not been seduced by riches or by personal comforts or ambitions.
And is there space in this world of capitalism for a leftist movement?
Yes. It is more important now that a leftist movement should become better organized in order to combat the global capitalism, which is ruthless.
So you would... how about in Sri Lanka? How do you feel in Sri Lanka?
We had in the past a strong left movement which later on dissipated, and we have today very much weaker left movement than before. Mm-hmm. Even if you take the JVP as a left party, and the Peratugami forward, I don't know what they call it, Peratugami Socialist Party, taking all of them together with the LSSP, CP and our party and the smaller groups, they are still a weaker lot than what the left movement was about 2-3 decades ago.
Now sort of towards the tail end of your political career, do you feel that the leftist movement is in a decline, or do you feel that there is hope for...
Left movement has been in a decline globally, except in few places like Nepal in our region. Yet the objective and historical need of a left movement will spur it in the near future back again to a higher level than even before.
Mr. Vasudeva, would you agree that Sri Lanka is rather a unique country?
It is a unique country, geographically, historically, and politically.
I'm so glad you said about politically, because it appears that our democracy, as we practice it in this country today, is quite unique. We have a majority party in Parliament, but the Prime Minister is not from the majority party. Can you explain this to me in simple terms, the makeup of our current Parliament?
Yes. This is a process that has been ongoing for some time, which is to bring the UNP and the SLP together and to fuse them in ideology and program, which found some results successfully during the time of Chandrika Kumaratunga, and who found that her policies were continuity, and therefore space was created for an integration between these two parties. As you now see, Chandrika and Ranil are the key figures in the operation of the present political what you call operation, the political program or the political events that are to now take effect. And Chandrika and Ranil, together with Maitripala, who defected from the UPFA and the SLP, together have combined to form this integrated political entity, which is made up of the SLP and the UNP and whoever else may come in. JVP partially by being at the national executive body.
But then they're either in or out, because
they would like to be both. And then the point is that this integrating, fusing operation has come into being after a long period of attempt and failure. And now, therefore, we have Maitripala defecting, then winning under the UNP's major support, by reason of the UNP's major support and the support of many others, and then becoming the chairperson of the SLP.
Right.
So that is the avenue of fusion.
Right.
And then the SLP, which was the majority party in the parliament and in the opposition, who held the government, became immediately neutralized and became converted, though they do not admit that conversion. They became instantly converted to a fused political entity between the UNP and the SLP. But there are a lot of members in the SLP who say, no, we can't accept this. So they are the ones who are now calling mind the back. The people follow them. And the people in large numbers who voted for the UPFA will not accept this fusion.
In your view, Mr. Vasudeva, as a seasoned politician, what do you think Mahinda Rajapaksa did wrong?
Firstly, the cost of living, about which we warned him. We asked him time and again at every budget that he must have about 7-8 items made available to the low-income earners at a fair price, like in India, which he did not heed, or the treasury did not heed, and therefore we could never give this concession to the low-income earners regarding the essential items of food. Then there was the admission of children to schools, which became a problem, about which there was a lot of resentment. Then transport became more expensive, with 3-wheelers being available easily and the buses not plying according to the rules. Then the hospitals weren't sufficiently equipped with tools and machines and drugs and personnel, and therefore the people had to all the time go to the private sector for smaller things and buy their medicine in the pharmacies, which was very expensive. All this added up to the cost of living and difficulty of living. This was the first thing. Second thing was the style of governance by the concentrated power of few, particularly those who were closely related to him or of his family, and 2-3 others who were the trusted men or the women who ran the government in a monopolistic way. I would use that word for the want of another better word.
Autocratic?
No, not autocratic. Yes. This concentration of power in the hands of few individuals who ruled over the state, who ruled over the machinery of the defense establishment, who ruled over the parliamentary affairs, and who ruled over the affairs of day-to-day matters of the voters. All these were held, by few individuals who held all the powers. Above them, the president. And this distance between the president and the members of the parliament was such that there was no communication from down below to the president, nor did the communication to the president ever reach the members of parliament or the people below the members of parliament. When I say this, I see the reason for this, attribute the reason for the structure of governance of presidential power. And Mahinda, after winning the war, became a super president. And he became more endowed with authority, and therefore it became authoritarian in its character, with this concentrated power of the few individuals, and there was no communication. This went to a great extent to the reduction of that number of votes. You must remember, large numbers voted for Mahinda Rajapaksa, not fully appreciating what he was doing, even though they did not appreciate what he did, or they had their own critique of what he was doing, or the style of governance, because we didn't want to get into the trap of having to have the UNP in power, or the UNP-backed candidate in power. So the principal opposition to the UNP was the driving force for the people to gather around Mahinda Rajapaksa more than in the 50% of the case of the voters. That's how I see.
Right.
Thirdly, was the corruption perceptions that were around the country. People perceived that there was corruption. Notwithstanding, the people came and voted.
Right.
But there was a section that refused to vote. And therefore, we had about 4,500,000 votes that went over to Sirisena, above
what he got. But there is also the fact that the minority community is deeply unhappy with his performance in terms of their safety, and in terms of, for the Muslims, in terms of their safety, and for the people of the former conflict areas in terms of what they wanted to happen after the war. And both appears to have voted him out of office.
We never had the votes of the Tamil people in the north and in the east cast in favor of our kind of candidate who came from the stream of the center of the road combined with the left. We never got that vote. The maximum we got was with Kobakadu, which was also less than the AITUC and less than the UNP. And even Chandrika got less than that of Kobakadu. So that's a vote that was never coming to our candidate. When I say our candidate, the candidate opposed to the UNP.
Right.
Never got that vote. Then in addition, the Muslim vote, we had about 300,000 Muslim votes, which went away with the BBS being seen as nurtured by Gotabaya Rajapaksa, and nothing being done against them by the government.
And why was that? Why didn't the president, being the savvy politician he is...
He had delegated a lot of powers to the principal personalities regarding the running of the government, and he merely presided over it, except to intervene when there was a case of conflict which he had to intervene to reconcile or to resolve.
So, but he gave in to, obviously, as you said, he gave in to the people closest to
him. The man he is would never have done the same if he was handling it.
Right.
He would have never done it. He would have taken action against the culprits in the Alugami incident and successfully proved to the Muslim people that we are not shielding anybody. But in the case of what happened, it was obvious that the BBS was shielded by Gotabaya.
At the time, did you all
raise it very strongly, more than once, in the cabinet and outside the cabinet. Nothing came of it.
What did he say to you all when in cabinet?
He said the matter is being investigated, will be investigated, proper action will be taken, while there was no investigation except recording of statements interminably.
So in the end, do you think now, in this, while he's out in the cold, do you think he's had time to reflect on all these things?
Yes, he should have time to reflect on all this. And he realized that he lost because the Muslims failed to vote with him.
Yeah.
But we had a larger vote in the north. We had about 70,000 more than what he had during the time of the provincial council elections in the Jaffna district. And together the northern province gave a better vote for him than in the previous provincial council election, which is again, but insufficient. Insufficient certainly in order to come to the level of winning the poll. The point is that he knows that he has ultimately not got the votes from the Tamils and the Muslims, and the Tamil vote was never forthcoming even from the times before. But the Muslim vote was there, which has gone away. He realizes this, and he thinks all these are a result of a conspiracy.
But clearly not.
It's not, certainly not. But he is now reflecting on it, and I'm sure he will come to understand the reduction of votes in the single areas was a major reason for his defeat. If you take Ratnapuri district, we had 100,000 votes reduced, and in the previous election in 2010. So as somebody said, Maitripala won with the northern votes and the eastern votes, while Rajapaksa lost with the southern votes.
Now you said that Mahinda Rajapaksa's rule was sort of a monopolistic rule. How do you compare the current Prime Minister's behaviour now?
Not sufficient time to judge, but judging from his past conduct, he is more dictatorial within his own party and in governance at all times. I remember him as a Minister of Education. I remember him as Minister of Youth Affairs. I remember him as a collaborator of Jaya Jawadan, and who fully went along with Jaya Jawadan in all the repressions and in all the inhuman operations that were conducted during that time.
We have 15,444,490 adults in this country, leaving aside the people who are in prison and in the mental hospitals. So people who are rather sane, and surely out of all that there must have been somebody who could qualify to run the central bank. Instead we've seen them going to the shops overseas, shopping for a governor. He's a foreigner, he's here on a work permit to work as a public servant. How does that sit with you as a people's champion?
I do not approve of any foreigner being brought in to take care of our central bank. Firstly, where there can be a conflict of interest. If there is a conflict of interest, he will certainly not be with us but with Singapore. So often we may have such situations in international affairs. So it is dangerous to have a Singaporean or any outsider who is not a citizen as a Sri Lanka in the central bank. More than that fact, this gentleman Arjuna Mahendran was a BOI chairman, if you will remember, during which time there was a transaction regarding the Sri Lanka Marine, some company, about which I went to courts, about its privatization. And this was privatized to John Keels. John Keels took over this marine.
Sri Lanka Marine Services.
Sri Lanka Marine Services, which was providing fuel to the ships.
That's right.
Which had an area of space within the harbour so much as 12 acres. And the entire transaction was found to be a fraud by the courts. And these 12 acres within the harbour had not been valued. Is not a part of the value that had been paid. Finally it was found that the value and consideration was not even paid as agreed on. So in the course of the case, many comments were made, and finally it was annulled. It was annulled. And the 12 acres of land was given back to the port, port authority. And thereafter the tanks which were there were entirely managed by the port authority.
That's right.
Formerly it was by the Petroleum Corporation. They had the monopoly for it. And the large amount that came to the Petroleum Corporation was used to subsidize kerosene for the poor people. This was entirely blocked by the privatization. So I opposed privatization. In addition, I found it was a fraud. My friend Nihal Amarasekara gave me the details about it, and he helped me to get this matter into court. And after the court annulled it, it was found that it should have not been a BOI project, because it is not to begin a new venture. It was merely taking over an ongoing operation,
Yeah.
and then make the money out of it without paying the consideration. And at the same time, having given the approval to it as a BOI venture, this chairman gave them the entitlement to a tax-free period, which was found by the courts as a illegitimate or unwarranted, and that it should not have been a BOI project, or no tax concession or tax concession or tax relief.
Yeah.
They were not entitled to it. So, as this came out about his action as a chairperson of the BOI, having given this BOI recognition and thus helped John Kears to get away from the payment of taxes, which later the court ordered to be paid back to the Inland Revenue Department.
Yeah.
This gentleman ran away. This gentleman went away from Sri Lanka and from the BOI chairmanship. He resigned.
And will you be, are you contemplating some Supreme Court action in terms of the Treasury bond?
Well, I am asked to become an intervenient, if I can, in an action already filed about the bonds, in order to ask for a reversal of this transaction, which is very much close to my heart. And therefore, I have agreed to become an intervenient and go into this case to ask for reversal of the bond transaction that had affected the country very adversely.
And what about the governor of the central bank? What's your stance
on
that?
The governor of the central bank has to be brought before the court and asked for his explanation regarding the bond matter, and he will have to be investigated. If this bond transaction is found to be tainted with
suspicion,
with what you call in legal parlance we say what you call mens rea.
Right.
Mens rea, wrong intent.
Right.
If the wrong intent is discovered, then of course the gentleman will have to face the prosecution by criminal investigation department.
But Mr. Manikara, the governor of the central bank is on record as admitting to a significant flaw in the process, which is that he didn't declare to the primary dealers that the increased requirement that the government, instead of wanting 1 billion, now wanted 10 billion. So 14 primary dealers of 16, 14 of them bid in the single-digit figures, bearing in mind, and they thought, under the impression, that they were bidding for 1 billion. Very suspiciously and strangely, two primary dealers, one working as a proxy for the other, by the way, and the state bank, bid on the basis that there was 10 times more.
And therefore they could offer a higher rate?
Yes, so they have. So what do you say? This is
you said he failed to, or he failed to disclose.
That's right. That's what he said.
No, I put it this way. He concealed to the other primary dealers. He kept it away from the other primary dealers that there was a bid available for 10 billion, 100 million.
So should he be on paid leave, or should he be...
He should have been immediately asked to take leave of his duties.
Yeah.
And then he should be investigated.
Should he be on paid leave while that's happening?
That's scandalous. That a person who is under suspicion to have been a part of a questionable transaction should be on paid leave. Should be asked to take leave of his duties and remain to be investigated.
Mr. Vasudeva, what did you achieve as Minister of National Languages and Integration? How have you left the country?
Yeah, put it briefly, I had taken the ministry in respect of the use of the official languages to a fairly commendable height from where it was when I took office. Then in the matter of teaching the two languages to the community and to the officials of the government, we had surpassed all the figures of the past and gone into about 40,000 officials being trained in the languages every year. And we had got the Institute of Language Training restructured. To give you one instance of the doctors who pass out, and when they were to go for their, what do you call that, training period.
Yes.
When they were being posted in the northern and Tamil-speaking area hospitals, they were given 10-day program experimentally, and they found it very useful, and they were able to converse with their patients after the 10 days with the basic Tamil that they did have to possess.
Right.
So which were, I think, achievements during that time.
Thank you. And very quickly, just as we close and wrap up, will you support the call for Kankusan Ture, the lands there, to be returned to the people?
I have always supported. And in fact, I will be supporting every move made by this government for democratization and national reconciliation. And whatever steps they have taken are appreciated by me, by whichever government. And I am seeing some of those, what is happening now, are what I had been always standing for.
Well, on that note, Mr. Vasudevan Anyakara, thank you very much for joining us in the hot seat. We look forward to having you again.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.